Good afternoon, everybody. Here is another video, not because I like the sound of my own voice. It's really just to say that I'm going to be putting a series of videos on outlining how I replace my exhaust system. As somebody said in a previous video when I asked for people's opinions about any exhaust mods they've done, I did say about a year ago I'm happy with the stock system. Yes, I did. However, it's a learning curve for us all, and I somewhat belatedly have chosen to get rid of what is a big, heavy, muffling system. And thank you to everybody who posted in the previous video their comments about their own exhausts and the noise rating and what they were like and so on, which was really, really helpful. And I have made my choice. I've ordered the headers and the cans. I will not reveal at present what I've got. I shall do that in a subsequent video, debox them, have a good look at them, see what the build quality is like and fit them, and then do a little noise test. So there's the old system in the garage. Now, first thing I did was to remove the horns and the fuel tank, as detailed in my last video. So 5 minutes taking the tank off and about a minute taking the horns off, the brackets and everything, and that gives the space to get into the lambda sensor block terminals, which click on to two metal tongs off the ignition coil carrier. They just click on, so by putting a screwdriver, a small electrical screwdriver, into the groove there, you can push a little tab down and it'll pull off the tong. And obviously you've got two of them, one per pipe. Not difficult to get off at all. Then it comes to disconnecting the actual block terminals. I find on the Royal Enfield all the block terminals are different and they all have a different way of opening and closing them. This particular one, I'll show exactly where it's necessary to put a small electrical screwdriver to push a little tongue down, and it enables you to open the connector up. It's not immediately obvious. So there's the lambda sensor off the metal tongue of the carrier. Now if you look at that purple bit there, underneath it there is a little tab. Can you see it? There's like a little tongue. I think it's metal actually. And to separate the halves of the lambda sensor, you put a screwdriver in there and you push it outwards. And by doing that, the block will then just come apart. If you don't do that, you'll be pulling forever. You probably pull until the wires come out, which is not to be hoped for. So just put a little proggler in there, push that tab and it'll come apart. As you can see, I've got my extension cable there as well to the rectifier at the front without the red slide because I broke it, prototype. So having separated the lambda sensors, this means that when you take the headers off, you don't have to spin them round and round and round when taking the lambda sensors out and tangle up the wires. As you can see, I've got stainless exhaust studs, which are actually car ones with an Allen socket in them, so they will just screw straight into the cylinder head. And I've got stainless steel flange nuts as well. On really seized up rusty metal parts, I always get a pipette and I put brake fluid on carefully so you don't get any paintwork and so on, or lacquer. But I find that'll loosen anything. Just put it on and leave it overnight, and it really does help. Brake fluid I find really good, and then you can spray it off with WD-40. And you can see the finned collar there of the header pipe is already rusting and looking a bit manky. So it'll soon be goodbye to that forever. So having undone the two header nuts there, take care with it. Obviously, if they're seized, take great care. Do not shear them off on the cylinder head. That is definitely not to be done, because if you shear your header nuts, you might end up like I did a few years ago, having to get a welder out and trying to weld a nut onto a 2mm protrusion. It's a nightmare. So I would tighten, untighten, loosen, take time, lots of WD if yours are rusty. Mine aren't, they came straight off. That's the midpoint hanger there, which is the bottom of the header. There's a rubber grommet or rubber anti-vibration mount in there. And most aftermarket systems I've seen come with the correctly sized bracket. And one manufacturer says, well, you can buy the rubber blocks that it sits in, and they'll fit them for an extra fee as well. You don't need to, as a little clip later on here will show. They come out dead easy, so you can use the original rubbers and they will go in equally as easily into the new hanger. It really isn't necessary unless yours are damaged or split or whatever. It's really simple. That's the rear can hanger, which in my case is a stainless steel Allen bolt and washer, which makes life easier. Apart from looking nicer, it means that they don't get damaged and rusty and rounding off. So it's a case of undoing the two header nuts, undoing the middle one and undoing the back one, and then removing the entire system. But now, because the lambda sensor is disconnected, it comes straight away right off the bike. And then it's a case of taking out the header gasket. I know some people have just put another gasket on top of that one, and I won't be doing that, although it can be done successfully, because I think it will move everything forward, albeit only 2 mil or some 3 mil, but I want the old one out. So I got a sharp pointer and tapped it, and these copper head gaskets are a tube actually, and inside them is some sort of grey powder like graphite or something, and it's possible to tap without damaging the face of the exhaust port casting. Just tap it and it will puncture that quite easily without going through and damaging anything else, and you can sort of generally distort it enough to get a pair of long nose pliers on it. And in my case, one came out really easily, the other one was slightly more involved, but they still come out. So you just tap them and weaken an area. I'd resist the temptation to try to lever them out against the circular casting though. I would just keep pushing and tapping and grabbing, and you can see it there. That's one of them in situ, and you can see it's hollow and it's got this powder inside it. I'm sure somebody will enlighten us all as to what it is. It's a sort of grey coloured stuff. So having sort of punctured that out a bit, you can get a pair of long nose pliers in there without risk of damaging the gasket face or indeed the casting around it. You can just get hold of it and grip it and pull it, and which is exactly what I did. One was easier than the other, but I think it's probably worth taking them out, because otherwise everything on the bike is moving forward, albeit 2 or 3 mil, and that's why I've done that. This next photo shows the pair of long nose pliers, just grabbed it at the weakened bit, and then suddenly pop, out it comes straight out. You can see it there, and just pull it. I don't know about copper washers. I've used fibre ones in the past, and I'm not entirely sure. I'm sure people, if you've got any opinions about header gaskets, I know a lot of header pipes are supplied with copper gaskets, and even when I've used them in the past, I've always put a little thin smear of exhaust paste on them, the stuff that expands with heat. I have done exhaust systems in the past where, despite a new gasket, you still get that sort of hissing slight leak. So I'm not sure. What do people prefer, copper or fibre? I've used both. I prefer fibre, but I think the headers I've bought are coming with copper ones, so I'll use them. This is the slightly trickier one, which looks like a partially exploded landmine, but that's me poking it with the little progler. As I say, if you're careful, there's no damage whatsoever to the gasket face or anything. You'll see the progler hasn't gone through to right the way through that ring. And I just managed to sort of weaken it a bit and then grab it and pull it. And then I got a little hoover and hoovered out any dust, just, it won't fall down the engine, but I hoovered it out the way anyway. I then at that point removed the lambda sensors from the header pipes. They're brass, and I thought I'd have a problem, but I didn't at all. If you just give it firm pressure, they just suddenly get crack, and that's it. They unscrew, come straight out. So here is one of the lambda sensors, a bit blurred. Sorry about that. A little probe thing that goes in there and does its thing, and it's just a case of getting the right size spanner on it. It has to be an open ender, unless you get a ring spanner and chop a bit out of it. But I just use an open-ended spanner, firm pressure, and crack. That was it opened up, and it has a washer under it. And it saves, by doing it that way and removing it from the blocks, you're not screwing it round and round and round, these two thin wires. The next bit shows the mounting brackets for the bottom of the headers, the anti-vibration mounts. A lot has been, it's been said about, buying new rubbers and, paying extra for the new rubbers and paying, I think it's £5 to have them fitted to any replacement system. With a broad-bladed screwdriver like that, it's a piece of cake. I mean, if they're in good condition and they aren't cracked or corroded or oxidized, whatever, they're absolutely perfectly usable. So I just used a broad-bladed screwdriver and just pushed it, and they come straight out, as the video clip will show in a minute. They're perfectly reusable. When I get the new system, it's got the new headers, it's got the right size brackets on it to take those. As I say, they were an optional extra, but I'd elected to be a tight wad and not do that. And they will go straight in. And I've done that sort of thing in the past where you just spray them with WD and they slide in perfectly easily. And this next photo shows just pushing it in with a sort of blunt screwdriver, and it will just go straight through, as a video clip in a few seconds will show. Here's one of them. There it is. So you get your screwdriver and then you push it, and that's it, done. Easy as that. No damage to the rubber. Absolutely perfect, and that will go straight into the new one. So that's £18 saved on two of them, and £5 to fit them. And that's what you get on the header anti-vibration mounts. You've got the rubber itself that fits into the bracket, then you've got two caps that fit either end of it, and then you've got the tubular bit and the washer bit that goes through the middle. So it's an anti-vibration mount for the headers. I personally would not buy new ones, and I wouldn't pay to have them fitted. You'll see when I start putting the new headers and cans on. I'm going to do it in a series, probably 2 or 3 videos, and you'll see how to put those back in. It's not at all difficult, and they're in good condition anyway, so perfectly reusable. There's my header studs. I got those on eBay. They're stainless. As you can see, they've got an Allen bolt socket, and I put anti-seize on them when I took the old studs out, which were really badly rusted. They were pretty horrible, and I did wonder whether they'd come out. So I heated them up with a blow lamp for a bit, and very, very carefully managed to make them move and then screw it back in a bit, out a bit. Don't try and do them in one go, undoing them, think I've loosened it great. In the past, I've done that, thinking this is now moving, and then you start trying to unscrew it and suddenly it shears off. Nightmare if you do that. As I say, I put brake fluid on, leave it for a day or two, and then if you can get them, once you get them to move, it's a case of to and fro, gradually unscrewing them, and plenty of lube in there to make sure they don't suddenly shear. That is definitely something to be avoided. There's the complete system. It weighs a ton. I'm going to weigh it. I'm going to get a full analysis of the new system in terms of what it sounds like, ease of fitment, accuracy. I'll do some sounds as well, of the standard system versus the modified one. And I'll do a weight thing as well. I'm going to try and get a pair of weighing scales. I might have to join Weight Watchers. I'll do that just to get their scales. I'll go for a week. I think it's about 50p, even though I only weigh 12 and a half stone. I'll go in and say that I'm underweight, and then borrow their scales, or my neighbours, and I'll do a full weight. It's been done before, I'm sure, yeah, but I'm going to do it and see what you think. So there's the bike looking very naked without its exhaust system. but everything's accessible without the tank, and that is really good, without, you know, to get at. It didn't take long. It probably took me half an hour to get the pipes off, and anybody that's done this job well before I've got round to doing it, I'm sure you'll concur. So there it is. That's stage 1. I've jumped the gun a bit. I've not even got the headers yet. They haven't arrived, and the cans haven't arrived either. But I do have my pan-European to use in the meantime. So I just couldn't resist it. I just couldn't resist going out and doing it. I know, I should have waited probably. So there's my Interceptor looking very bare. But that system weighs a ton. It really does. But I shall come back with data soon. So part 2 will be the arrival of the headers and the cans, and then I'll do an unboxing and a good look at them. And if anybody's got any requests as to what they want to know about them, just post here and say, tell me how long they are, or what are the welds like, or do you really like them, you know. So if you've got any questions about the system that I've bought, then by all means post. I want to be able to use my Royal Enfield panniers and pannier rails, so the angle of them has to be correct, and they can't be too fat either, the cans, because I don't want them touching my panniers. So if anybody's got any questions about it, I know for the more experienced exhaust people out there, you know, you've all done it before, and there's plenty of different options, as we know from the previous video, but for me this is a first on this bike, hence my caution. I just hope I'm not going to be disappointed. But again, thank you for everybody that's posted. It was very useful, and I'll be posting part 2 as soon as I can. In the meantime, it's a beautiful day, and if you're out on your bike, do take care and watch out for the loonies, and I will post again very soon. Bye for now.